Are we recording already?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Eyes Wide Open. I'm your host, Donna Schmid, and my co-host, illustrious, beautiful co-host, Phyllis Tempest is here today, and looking mighty spiffy, I might ask. I did say that she looked, yeah. She says she's patriotic, or she said she's wearing the colors red, white, and blue. I don't look at it as patriotic. I think she just looks very grand to me. So I'm going to just turn it over to her because she is going to be holding the reins again today, and let's see what she has planned for us.
Thank you,
Phyllis,
Donna.
you're very
welcome to everyone. I thought maybe in this one we would sort of backtrack a little bit. Last time was a absolutely phenomenal channeling, and we got so much information. And so I thought maybe we could clarify a few things. But the first thing I'd like to ask Donna is, this seemed to be sort of different for you. There was a lot of energy coming in, a lot of energy coming through, and it was different. But I would like to know how, as a human, how did you feel? How were you able to assimilate that energy, and how was it for you?
Well, it was different, and I was very much aware that it was a larger energy composition, I'll call it, because usually a lot of the times I don't know if someone in particular, and I'll just say someone I know I'm referring to them, as kind of a human asset, but they're not. But it's one of them, or a part of them usually comes in. Maybe will let me know who they are, or who's going to be talking today, or it's the energy that comes in that my immediate understanding is if it's female or male. I usually get that understanding, and then the process happens. However, the last time, which was on the 20th, I just want to remind people, I was aware that there was a group. And the way I can describe it as a human is if you're walking into a classroom setting and there's a group of people. It's very different if you walk into a classroom and you're like the second one to arrive and there's only one other person there. There's a definite difference, a feel in the room. Both you notice it visually and of course, kinesthetically. But this was, I'm walking into the room and the room is already full. And it's like, okay, wow, where do I sit? You're looking for your positioning there. And when they came closer, or as a human, I'm getting closer to those in the room, then definitely sensing everyone around me. So it's even on an unconscious level when something like that happens, you're looking for an empty spot to sit, yes, but you're also, in doing so, it's like if you pick an empty spot in your mind, it's like you feel like around you, like, do I want to sit next to that person? And it's not a judgmental thing. It's just like, what's the vibe I'm getting, comfortable, because I don't want to feel like I'm sitting there and then I have to move, it's like, don't sit next to them next time. And I am attending a class right now, so I'm kind of using that as a reference point because I don't usually like to sit at the same place each time. And I know there's people that like to do that. However, if I find somebody that I like sitting next to, either they converse with me, or at least they'll acknowledge I'm there, say, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Or if I ask a question that, they answer, and it's not the type of thing where they're answering and then they don't want to talk to you anymore. You get that feel like I don't want to be in communication with you. So, and I also don't like when somebody's like constantly asking me questions or mumbling under their breath kind of thing. So it's that feeling comfortable. So that particular channeling was, oh my gosh, the room is full. I've never been in the room this big before, and I'm a little off kilter because, who invited all these people? New people in the classroom, and okay, now I have to decide where I'm going to sit. And then instead of that, they all came, and so it was this definite, here I am in the midst of all this, like in the center. And so it was a little disconcerting to get used to, because they were vibrating at the same frequency. There was no difference in the male, the female, or, this one's a more gentler kind of, we're going to talk about things in a more gentler way, or this one over here is going to be more, assertive kind of attitude. It was all the same vibration. So that was like, okay, all right, we'll see how this goes. So that's if I can talk about it in a human sense, that's what it was like for me. Yes.
Interesting. That's a wonderful description. Absolutely wonderful. Now, I know that even you said before, a lot of times there is one particular energy or one particular being or whatever that comes in to be a spokes spirit for everybody else. So did you find that that way this time?
No.
Okay, so they all was just like one together, unified.
Yes.
And okay.
Yes. And that's why the energy was so different. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like jumping in the whole ocean instead of a small pool of water. It's like, wow. Yeah. When you look out, you're like, the horizon. Where does this end? Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of the viewers, but I definitely could tell that there was a lot more energy there than there ever has been, actually. But that is fantastic, because it gives you a sense of comfort, or it would me, to know that there are so many there just waiting to help. Just waiting for you to ask. It's just, to me, that is just, confirmation that we're not alone.
No, not at all. I share with you, during my NLP training, and that was neuro-linguistic programming. A section of that, we learned how to contact spirits on the other side that could assist us in a particular project maybe that we're working on. So when we paired up, I happened to be paired up with this particular gentleman who was from Arizona. Can't remember his name. I'm sorry to say that, but he was an incredible artist, and just incredible. And so he'd gone to a lot of the street fairs and that kind of thing at the time, and selling his artwork. And he wanted to learn from, I believe it was Michelangelo. There was a certain stroke or something as foreign to me, because I'm not an artist in that sense, but he wanted to learn the stroke, and he wanted to be taught by Michelangelo. And so we actually, and at the time, really what we were doing is channeling, but that was not what was told to us. This was just an exercise in contact to request that this particular energetic vibration comes in to assist. So there was things like being specific about what you want and what your intention is, and that kind of thing. So once all of that was set, I actually encouraged him to go into a nice deep state of what it was meditation. And it could have been he went into a little bit of a trance state, but it was more meditation, and assisted him in calling forth Michelangelo's, the energy of Michelangelo, which could be, you know, and not just Michelangelo, but several different an energy sequence, I'll call it. And so he got the information that he wanted, and then he applied it. And I quizzed him afterwards, after a few months after the class ended, and he was definitely, you know, incorporating this into his work, and he was really thrilled. So I thought, you know, I could probably do the same thing. And this is before I, you know, was into the channeling thing. It was just more still practicing what I had learned during this class. And I was writing something, and I was having difficulty writing. And so I requested someone to come and help me with the fundamental foundation of how to put this together so that I could write. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, and this is their favorite time to come for me. I guess I'm more open then. I don't know. But they came, and it was very insistent that I get up and begin to write this down. So I did. And I was really amazed at what came through that really did help me. And to this day, still guides and helps me. So I hope that answered your question. I don't know. It's just, or you didn't ask a question, I'm telling you. But it was interesting. There's another facet, another way of doing it that wasn't introduced as channeling at the time, but really that's what it was. So yes, there's many ways to do this.
Yes, it reminds me of how when I was going to get my license, and I wasn't quite sure I was going to make it because of my eye, and so I asked whoever was there that could see to read to come through and use my eyes so that I could see and pass the vision test and pass with flying colors, you know. So they are there to help. They are there, but they won't interfere. You've got to ask. You have to ask them to help. You have to ask them to help. Yes. Well, thank you. I just wanted to get an idea and have the audience to know that this isn't some strange out of body phenomena or something. You still are you, and they are, you know, you are allowing them to speak through you. So thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do.
I do think it's more of a at least for me right now, more of a I'm letting them come in and speak through me. I am, who says this a lot? Not Bashar, but it says it's like dictation, you know.
Yes.
And I remember being like a secretary years ago, and the attorney used to dictate in a dictaphone. Oh gosh, this is old. But even then, it was like
with shorthand.
Well, yeah, because there were times when I had a boss who would call me in his office and he'd want to dictate to me, and I'd have to take shorthand. And it's like, even then, it was like, you have got to get a dictaphone because this is like so old and so archaic. And it's like, I could be doing something else while you're doing that. And then I got to go back and transcribe it. So I had an attorney who's using the dictaphone. So I've got the earphones, you know, on my ears, and I'm typing. And so it's kind of like what it is that I'm hearing them, and not with my physical ears. And then I just speak what it is that they've downloaded. And that's why I know I've said this before, where sometimes energetically that energy is picking out the language, in my mind, what's available to them. And sometimes it's on topics that I'm not real sure of. And so they either won't talk about that topic because I don't have the language to adequately explain it. And so they, you know, don't want the message to get misconstrued, so they choose not. That's not my forte. So what's interesting is I will be led to different topics and read different topics so that at least I have that language within me that yeah. So it's very fascinating how they work with me with that. That day I remember feeling like I was, rising up out of my body, and that was really disconcerting. And I thought at first it was because the energy that was coming in they were getting way too intense, or it was escalating, but it assured me that that was not the case. What was happening was my energy was resonating more. So I was actually vibrating at a higher vibration, and that was new to me. And in my own personal sensation of it, it felt like I was rising up off my seat, because basically I was energetically not separating from my body, but I was definitely rising differently. I have no idea what that was or what that's going to lead to, but I know it's something. How's that? It's good. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
One of the things that was talked about in the channeling was being an observer. I'd like to sort of delve deeper in that. And, as a human being, so much is happening. There's so many things happening with family, it's happening with friends, it's happening just, out there. And it definitely, a lot of times, it will push your buttons and it will trigger something. And it's difficult when you're by yourself and you don't have support. It is so difficult to step aside and be an observer and look at the big picture. Even if you ask, show me the big picture, sometimes you're so emotionally involved that it's so difficult to do that. Do you have any words of wisdom on how you could step aside and be that observer?
Yes. So as I was trained as a medical massage therapist, it was, in order for me to bill like insurance companies, I would have to provide them what's called as chart notes. And I know people that are in the medical field understand this. So for those that don't, chart notes are specific in that they give what's called subjective, objective, it's been a while now, what the plan is, and then kind of what the outcome is, so that you know where you're going to help this person. But I'm going to stick to the first two, which is subjective and objective. So subjective is what the person tells you in their own words, not in your words, in your own words. So that if you, and think about this, because I also learned this in the law field when I was a legal secretary, because when attorneys ask a question, you can watch court cases on YouTube or on TV. The attorney asks a specific question, and then the person that's on the stand will respond. And if you sometimes that's where you get people in trouble, because the attorney asks a specific question and then the person on the stand gives this really big long answer. Case in point, Amber Heard just like put her foot in her mouth constantly. If she would have just answered the question, she would have been a lot better off. So if someone comes in, you're keeping track of, and you could do this mentally, and keeping track of what they're saying. My left arm hurts when I raise it up this high. So that's their subjective complaint about what's going on in their body. Okay, and to keep that in a medical kind of content. So objectively, I write exactly what they said. Number one. Number two, I then write what I observed. So as this person raised their arm to demonstrate to me, I saw them wincing on their face. What did I observe? So I'm looking at the body language. I'm listening to their tone of voice. You know, you can tell when someone is distressed because the tone in their voice shifts. And also the way they move. You know, if somebody's moving and I'm seeing them hold their shoulder, then I'm gonna, you know, acknowledge that in my observations. So you become very attuned to body language. So my suggestion would be is to watch some YouTube videos where there are podcasters that are doing body language, and you can learn a lot because they'll teach you as they're going. So they'll say, well, you know, if they put their fingers over their mouth, that means something, you know. So it teaches you observation skills, okay, so that when you're in a situation, now those skills start to activate. It'll help you into a bigger picture of what's going on. So if you're triggered, then those skills come up, and then it's more of an attorney asking questions. What specifically did you observe that created this energy shift in you, this anger or this sadness? And it was like, well, when they said the word Trump, it just pissed me off. Now you're at least beginning the process of observing that something outside of you occurred and it created a reaction within you. And now when you bring that to your conscious awareness, it is no longer in the subconscious. It has been brought up to the conscious level to be recognized, to be understood, and to learn from, and not being pushed down. If you'll notice on some podcasts now, there's a disclaimer that'll say, you know, this podcast contains certain acts of violence, I'll just say, on some things that might trigger you. Because if you have something happen to you and you observe that on an unconscious level, whoa, you're triggered, you know, and then you got to deal with that. You got to deal with your own crap. Yeah. So it's consciousness. And I want to elaborate on that just a little bit more, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
Okay, I also learned in my training something that's really stuck with me, and that is, if I can say it correctly. There are like to me, there's 4 stages, and I call it spiritual growth. I know I believe it's set up as learning, how you learn, but I equate it to spiritual growth. 4 stages. One is unconscious competence. Hope I don't mess this up. It's like messing up a good joke. You know, I give you the end of the joke. Here's the punchline. Okay. Unconscious competence, where I call these people zombies, you know, the stick in the head in the sand, because they walk around unconsciously and they're like little artificial intelligence robots. They just run off their belief systems, what's going on. I mean, they're oblivious. They're not grounded. People say they're not grounded. They're just reacting. To get an idea about this, if you do the same routine every morning, and while you're thinking, you know, doing other things, do you ever stop and say, oh, did I brush my teeth? I don't remember brushing my teeth.
Yes. Yeah.
What happened, and you were unconscious. It just did it. Or better one is you're driving along on the road, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I don't remember. How did I get here? Did I miss my off ramp? Did I miss the road I was supposed to turn on? Because you're in just this unconscious mode, and it's like, whoa, pay attention. I always think you can do this to Focus. Yeah. So that's unconscious incompetence. And then something happens. It's like either, you find out that, oh my God, there was something in the Bible that just somebody said that's not true. Oh my God. Or you find out, Santa Claus isn't real. Sorry for all those children out there, because this isn't, I do have it to where it's not a kid show. So, and then you're like, well, what else have you told me that's not, not real?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it wakes you up. That's kind of the term, it wakes you up. So you go now into a state of conscious unconsciousness. And that's where it's like you get really pissed off a lot, because you realize that you've been told a lie. You've been lying all this time. You stole this money from us, and you've been telling it's for our own good. And here I thought you were like a really good president, and now I'm finding out that you're like really stupid, and I voted for you, kind of thing. So it's like, what am I thinking? So there's this, like, you get upset because now all of a sudden there's things going on that you were not aware of.
Right.
And you get upset. You go through a lot of emotions with it. And sometimes it's too much. And people go, I can't do this. I can't, it's too much. I'm just going to go back to work. I can't handle all this, Trump's going to come back and we're having this digital system and I can't handle it. I got to just like shut it all down and go back to being unconscious.
Yeah.
It happens a lot if there's like really Trump, like 9/11. It's like, whoa, too much, way too much. I got to go back to my, what people will term my normalcy, so that I can function again, because I can't handle this. It's way too much for me. And so what I thought my country was protected and I was protected, now all of a sudden I'm not. Oh, so they go back to unconscious incompetence. So each time something happens to bring them up into a conscious place of, oh my God, I'm, been unconscious, you recognize it. There's an opportunity, you have a choice to move forward with that or to go back down into that state. When people move forward, then that's when a lot of the observation comes in. They begin to recognize things. And they take it, internally, they blame themselves or they blame others. There's a lot of writing going on. There's a lot, there's a lot of that going on.
Yes.
And that's that fold. Yes. So then if you can stay awake at that point, stay conscious, then you begin to learn. You begin to get tools, if you will, through and spirit will help you with this too, because you'll begin to notice other things. You'll maybe gravitate towards other people that are kind of waking up at the same thing. Maybe you might take a meditation class because you think that'll help with your nerves. You're beginning to get into that spiritual realm of things, and it opens you up gradually more and more and more, to the point where you become, we went from unconscious competence to conscious incompetence, and then we get into conscious competence. So you begin to feel a little bit better about your life, feel a little bit better what's going on. You begin that you're like understanding that, hey, I'm a master of my reality here. I can actually influence this. I don't have to be a part of my family that treat me like shit, that say nasty things. I don't, yeah, you're my family, but I don't have to interact. And guess what? If you start that stuff at the dinner table, I can get up and leave. I don't have to stay and sit in it. So we begin to get these tools that help us to stay in that conscious part. And then the next phase, which I think is just awesome, is to be, so we had consciousness. Now we're going to have unconscious competence. And this is the pinnacle for me, is that you just do it. You don't even think about it. you know, being here and kind of explaining this, I have to go into a phase of, okay, I have to think about what's gone on step by step, because I don't do that anymore. It just does. And each time it just lifts me more and more and more. So those are, to me, the 4 stages. So when you're wanting to really become the observer, it's, you got to stay awake first. You got to acknowledge that, yeah, there's a lot of crap going on, but there's also, being the observer, is I see a lot of things that are good as well too. So even though the Band-Aid's being ripped off and all of this, you know, really ugly stuff is showing up, it's like, it's showing up finally. It's like we're all being able to see it. So I want more truth, because the truth will keep you awake.
Yes.
I think it's just phenomenal to me how even there's so many different court cases that have gone on.
Yes.
Where you could watch it on a podcast, like, you know, I mentioned Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and so many people watched that, and so you got this understanding of not only how actors and actresses and their dynamics, I mean, and the crazy crap that they went through, but also the court system, our government system, and how it works, and how, you know, it has to be succinct. So when people, in fact, I'll give an example of this. Everybody's aware of the homelessness, houselessness, the situation that's going on, and it's reached an epidemic level. Well, okay, the epidemic level is because there's a lot of us that are waking up going, when did this happen?
Right. Right.
I think back, because my husband and I had this conversation the other day, and I said, you know, I remember talking about homeless people 7-10 years ago, but we maybe had like local homeless people.
Yes.
And one man in particular who we always saw, and we would, you know, make mention. I don't even we didn't know his name, but I think we gave him a name. And I said to him last night, I said, you know, who we have not seen in a long time is so and so. I wonder what happened to him. I would say, oh, he got a shave. Oh, somebody cut his hair. Oh, he's lost some weight. Oh, somebody gave him a new jacket. You know, we would just like he was a neighbor. You know, we would notice stuff. But now there's so many of them. This is like the epidemic level. So I'm listening to the podcast of the city last night on how they were creating ordinances to tackle the homeless issue. And I was really impressed, because what they did was very, very good, but also it was the first step. And they knew it was the first step. They knew that it was not going to get rid of, hide, put over here. It was addressing the problem. Yes, this is an issue. It needs to be addressed for everybody. But then there were those that come up with their public content. It was like, oh my goodness. I mean, they were like yelling at the council that these homeless people, as if they were the dark, you know, the dark ETs from another planet or something. We have got to get rid of them, like, you know, they're rabid dogs or something. And it's like, okay, wait a second. You know, they're people. It's not my choice to live on the streets like that. Situations did not happen that drove me to make that decision. However, I don't know what their situation is, and everybody's situation is different. So to get them to where we can safely cohabitate together, and still now we can deal with why you're there and how can we assist you and what can we do, what do you need, then we can do that. So that particular person that was complaining, I thought, whoa, she's in the conscious, the incompetent state. She's just So, you know, just let her verbalize it and go on about it. And she only had, thank God, 3 minutes, because each person had 3 minutes to give a comment, because it's like, that's enough. But that's what happens. So if we can look at that and observe it and go, okay, she's pissed off, you know. And I remember being kind of like, hey, what's going on here? No, isn't anybody doing anything about it? But there is something going on, and people are becoming more consciously aware, which is good. And now they're looking for those solutions. They're looking for, that's going to benefit everybody, not just one group, you know, because I did my taxes, and so therefore I should have more of the park than you, kind of thing. And I, you know, I don't do drugs. So yeah. So if that helps to kind of let people know what stage they're at, that would, you know, that would help. And when you're in that high emotional state, then it's like, oh my God, I just woke up to this. Holy crap, you know, what's happening, kind of thing. And I can tell you and tell the viewers, I get triggered myself from time to time. When these podcasts get on and they're talking about, you know, fear. Oh my God, there's fear. Oh, there's people doing there's tanks. I got pictures of tanks on trains, and so therefore something's going to happen, and you know, and it's like this, just churns it and churns it and churns it, and it's like, where's the solution, people? You know, nothing's happening. You're giving me dates that, you know, I better go, you know, get some bullets. What else? I better go get some survival
food or water, and
survival food. You know, and I got to tell you, you know, I live with an Army husband, so of course we have our stinking backpacks or whatever they're called. But however, I did live in a state that had earthquakes, and so we were prepared. I mean, so even my kids had their little toy backpacks with toys, you know, that were important to them in their backpack. And so if the earthquake would happen, my poor middle daughter would grab her little backpack and throw it underneath. Like, oh God. But she was prepared, you know. And so that's the, you know, as my husband says, you prepare for the worst, but you hope for the best. So if something happens, you know, oh my God, but it's a survival kind of thing. Look at the people in Ukraine. You can see that who's prepared and who's not prepared. But not to be in a state of it's going to happen any second. Oh my God. Because I'll tell you, I lived in California where they have said that big one's coming all my entire life. That big one's coming. You better be ready for it. It's coming. And it's like, it hasn't hit yet. With global climate change. Oh my God, you know, but it's going to come. Al Gore talked about that when he was vice president. It's going to happen, you know, in 2 years, whatever, and it hasn't happened yet. So, you know, I know I went off on a tangent. I wonder why the wise. Okay.
You know, and it's true. You are not living in the present moment. You're not living your life if you're living in fear. And yes, that doesn't mean to just shut your eyes, because that's the problem now. We shut our eyes to everything and haven't really looked. But be prepared and just go on your daily, you know, about your daily business. Don't sit and fear, oh no, this is going to happen, because what you fear, you are aligned with that frequency, and it comes to you in one form or another. And also, just a side note about, you know, the people that don't have homes. I was listening to someone the other day, and he said he was always, you know, looking at the homeless, you know, in a certain way. And he said one day he sat down beside one, and he said, the guy started talking to him, and he said, you know, he said, I don't want to be out here, be homeless. But he said, I lost my job. And when I lost my job, I lost my home. And he said, I didn't have any place to go. So many of those people, it's not because they choose, well, they sort of do, but, you know, it's because of circumstances in their life. And a lot of them want something to where they don't have to be there. They, you know, they want something better. And you hear stories all the time about people I'm sorry, they're mowing the yard outside my
Oh, okay.
window. If you can hear that noise, sorry about that, y'all. But uh, you know, a lot of people don't really want those conditions. Just like, we have not wanted what we have been in for the last 6 months, but there's always a reason, and you always have choices. When you were talking about the steps, you come to that point where you have a choice to either give up and say, I don't want to deal with this. It was so much easier when I didn't know, or continue waking up and take responsibility and say, okay, what can we do? What can I do in order to help everything along? You see a problem, and okay, what can I do to help with the solution? And it's amazing because you don't have to do anything but maybe give somebody a smile. You don't know what kind of a day they're having. And a clerk at the checkout counter, just smile and say, how are you today? You don't know what an impact you could be having on that person. And so, you're living your purpose, you're doing what spirit and your higher self wants you to do. And it helps you, and it helps them too.
I agree. It doesn't take much.
No.
Yeah. I think part of this too is learning, not only learning what's happening physically, what's going on. I suggested with people that read body language, but also listening to the language that people use.
Yes.
And I spoke a little earlier of being in a class right now, and a large amount of the people that are in this particular class, I hear, I'm an observer, so I, do it. I listen to their language, and it's things like, I'll try to do that this week, or I can't do that. I tried it before and I can't do it. And it's like, well, you're just prophesizing for yourself. Stop with the language. I'm going to put at the end of this video, I've found this really great meme. I guess it's a meme, but it has on there to change from, start using, instead of saying try, use this. So if I say something like, it's hard for me to do that. Well, it will be, because yes. Remember, there really isn't, time-wise, time is a construct of this particular place that we're living in. So if I say what did I say? I don't want to do it, but then it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I am predicting it. So instead, and we learn this in hypnotherapy, is say, well, it's a challenge. I'm going to admit to the fact that, hey, that's something that just, it's a challenge for me. So I'm really going to have to be mindful of it and conscientious, and really, find ways to shift that and make it happen. Now I've taken steps forward. I have not taken steps back. I've moved forward, and things will open up for me more. But I am at least acknowledging where I'm at, Same thing with conflict resolution classes that I've taken. Where, there's a conflict with somebody. So instead you use the term, oh, and this is so like whatever right now with he, she, they, them, it, whatever. But you acknowledge where you're at. So if you say, like, we've had maybe a disagreement or whatever, and something you said just like, what did she mean about that? What does she think she is trying to tell me? So instead to you, when I heard you say, notice I didn't use the word you, kind of eliminate that from the vocabulary for a while if you want to eliminate something. When I heard you say,
You're froze. Okay.
anything, I felt off kilter or whatever, I felt
Yes.
like, because I'm owning it. I'm saying, I heard you say, or when I saw you do that, I thought to myself, what is that? Now I'm in a state of, I saw something, I felt something, I heard something, and I'm asking for clarification.
Yes.
When you say these things, you really piss me off. I think you acted like my mother. It irritates me. So now I become combative. Where in the other way, turn it around. Sometimes people are not, they don't, it's kind of foreign to them, almost like a foreign language when you begin to talk like this. So my husband, case in point. Personally, I say to him, listen, I'm not the enemy. I'm on your side too. And then it's like it just deflates everything, and then we kind of start again, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope that helped too. So I know I went on. Observer is changing or shifting. I want to say shift and being more consciously aware of how you speak to another person, how you greet another person, how you leave another person, how you, and this is all being very, authentic as well too. So again, if I'm having a bad day, I'm going to say, you know what, my day is a little bit unnerving. That's what I'm going to call it. However, at this moment, I'm okay. And it's, and I can make it better if I want to. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to give that my all, kind of thing. And then I know I heard myself say the word try. But it's like it shifts you and helps you to stay more in that conscious spot.
Correct.
So,
Yes. And it's very important, the words that you use, that you don't blame another, because if you blame, it's like, well, you made me feel such and such. And all of a sudden the barriers go up, and it's almost impossible then to come to a resolution. It's like you said, when you do this, then I feel such and such.
Right.
And therefore you're owning it, because nobody can make you feel anything. It's your own emotions that do that, your own makeup that does that. And you're not blaming, and you're opening the door then for you both to come to a resolution.
Yes.
And your words create, just like we were saying, your words create. I know some people, especially family, well, oh, this is going to be a great day. Now watch it not be.
Ooh.
You see?
Yes.
I mean, they totally turn that around. And if they had just stopped at, oh, this is going to be a great day, it would have been great. But they just totally wiped that out with their next sentence. And I always heard that if you are speaking and you create a sentence and you have a but in it, that but means that everything you said before the but is totally gone. You really didn't mean that. You meant everything you say after the but. And I've really paid attention to that. I've really, well, the best that I can. But whenever people are talking to me, I pay attention to that one.
Yeah. That was a big one for me, to change the word but to the word and. So if somebody says something, and you'll hear people go, but, so they give like the complete opposite, but it's like, I'll say and, which then now brings what you said and now what I said together. And it's, a cohesive little ball there going on. Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing when you begin to recognize, the English language and use it And of course, channeling, it has made me become very much aware of that, because when I am channeling, and if the word is not correct, if it doesn't vibrate to the energy that they're wanting to bring across, then they'll shift it. They'll search for something else, and I'll help them search too, like in the confidence of my life, thinking that, what exactly did you want to say? How about this word? So it's nice sometimes even just to look up the meaning of a word. And I learned this too when I'm in my writing, and I'll choose the word, and it's like, is that the state that I want to convey? And so I'll look the word up, and it's fun. It's kind of fun for me, it is anyway, but I'll look at the what's the, like, for synonym, like what else,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have like tons of choices, and then that becomes part of your vocabulary and your learning experience as well too. So which gets me to our education system, because it's being so dumbed down, that we stop learning. We think we have to stop learning as soon as we're out of school, and you don't. I mean, you're learning all the time. That's whole part of being, a soul in this environment, is to learn. And with that learning, comes expansion. Yeah, so it's just the way, the regimented way that they're teaching. It's like we're all like little robots, and we all learn the same thing together, and then that's it. And we all learn the same way, and we all respond the same way, or I should say react the same way, and that's it, which is wrong. I mean, there's we're all unique. There's tons of ways for us to express ourselves. So yeah, without offending anybody else or whatever, we're all learning and growing. Going back to this class that I'm taking, because I'm in this class, and it's like, I feel like I'm in kindergarten, because it's like, I already know all that. Oh my God, I learned it. And so it's like, and I love learning, but it's, I'm waiting for what I'm supposed to learn. What am I supposed to get from this? And that's kind of like situations that we're in everyday life.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm in this job. It's not my favorite job. I really don't like it. I dread coming to work, but I'm supposed to learn something, right? This is why I'm here. So I'm supposed to learn something. What is it that I'm supposed to learn? My youngest one tells me this all the time. I don't like the job. When am I going to learn what I'm supposed to learn? He said, but see, again, it's the way she's verbalizing it, when there. And she's there waiting for it to come to her. It's like, that's not how it works.
No.
So I have to go back and remind her, what did you do? That's why gratitude journals are really good. Remind yourself that there are things in your life that are going good.
That's right. That is true. Yes. And when you learn what you need to learn, you'll move on.
Oh, yes.
Spirit will open the door for someplace else, for something else.
I know we had this conversation about your location, and you're not liking the location and really wanting to be in more conducive location for yourself, for your own spiritual growth and development. You felt stagnant, and it's like,
absolutely,
you know what you want, you're asking for what you want, you've identified it, you've nitpicked it all the way down, and yet, okay, when's it going to happen, kind of thing. And so then it was like, as soon as, I don't know if you noticed this or not, as soon as you shifted from like, when's it going to happen, to, okay, I'm going to go do this for a bit.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, this just went, poof, opened up.
It did. Yes. It's almost like, okay, I
lost you. You're like frozen. You're frozen in time. Woo!
But you accept that this is where you are right at this moment, then it makes everything flow. And I found with myself, especially in this situation, when I was griping and complaining, and I hate this place, and and they don't do this and they don't do that, and it was like that kept me in the stagnant place. But whenever I thought, and it was a conscious make up my mind that, okay, we're here until we're not, and I'm going to start living. I'm not going to wait on anything. I'm not going to and this is sort of comical because where we are, it's like, okay, we were waiting on a home, on a house to come open. Okay. So all of a sudden I thought, you know what? I'm wasting my life. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going home. I'm going to go visit my sister. I'm going to go to North Carolina and I'll be staying 3 weeks. And I don't care, whatever happens, happens. Well, I won't be going to North Carolina at this point in time because instead of going to North Carolina, I'm going to be moving. Yes. So see, it just opened it up and there it was. But then, I look back and it's like, I did this. I created this. And I created the slowdown. I created all of it. So whenever, you create whatever it is, you definitely create, whether it's your words, your emotions, or whatever. So, yeah.
Yes. I speak from experience myself.
And we are still on that. We're still on that learning path.
Yes.
We are still on that growing path.
Yes.
And it's all good. It's all good.
Yes. I was sitting in this class next to someone who is going to school to be a nurse, as a matter of fact. And so he had just taken some of his finals. And so I had asked him how it went. And he said he passed them all. And I said, oh, good for you. I know what a feeling that is. It was like, I finally, it like feels good that I learned something and I could be tested on it and I performed whatever. But I said, so what's next? And he said microbiology. And I said, ooh, that sounds really exciting. He goes, really? And I said, I'm a lifelong learner. I said, I just love to learn things. So when there's stuff out there, it's like I quiz it, and question it. And that's part of being consciously awake too, is like, you don't have to take it as they're saying it or as they're teaching it or as they're, this is what we're doing. It's like, what is it about that? How do you think that's going to work? I asked questions. And if you can't answer them, I don't trust them. Now, that's a great question, but I don't know. That's a whole other story,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've always, I'm a lifelong learner, as we all should be anyway. Like I said, we just don't stop. So it's a thing of just, okay, I'm going to learn something new. It might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to learn something, that I didn't know before. And it's going to help me somewhere in my life. And if you just look at it with that attitude, you'll be okay. You'll keep your head out of the sand, and just watch all the other zombies walking around. So one thing, and I think I learned this too from my dad, because my dad was an incredible observer. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but as a kid, as the women were, as he said, the women are going over there, I would sit with, my mother would tell me, sit on the bench with your father, get rid of the kid and old man. So I'm sitting on the bench with my dad, and this is my dad. He's watching everybody go by. I go, what are you looking at? And so he began to describe to me what he was looking at. And interesting enough, and this is, in the 60s, really dating myself, but he would say, he would notice race. He would notice if it was two races together, that he always said shouldn't be together. But there was this, I got all this information from him, and he definitely was, I always used to say he created, or the Archie Bunker character was created after my dad, because that was my dad. But he was fascinating to watch. And that's where I learned to be an observer. Thank goodness I didn't learn to be judgmental, because I thought, oh, that's like, why are you saying that? So I rejected it early on. I didn't take it as like, I don't like that. And the other thing I learned from him is how to tell a story, because he used to sit every night at the dinner table, and I'd look at him with these big brown eyes and say, Dad, tell us a story, and so he would talk about his childhood growing up, and he would just get very animated in it. Instead of reading a book, to your kid, my dad would tell stories, and I would just like be at the dinner table just listening to him. But we learn, and things that we don't want, or it doesn't feel right, we kind of set aside to look at another time.
Yes.
But that's how it became so natural to me, is because I learned that through him. So if you can even look back into that childhood, that early beginning of where those belief systems were fundamentally placed, and learn something from the people that around you that helped you to be human, that took you from the spirit world to be human. So you learn a lot. Not that I agree with everything, that's a whole other story, but it's fascinating when you begin to look at stuff from a more conscious perspective. It's your life shifts. It just changes for you, to walk. And that's the whole point of this, podcast, is with your eyes wide open, because it's like, okay, I don't miss anything.
Yes.
I don't want to shut it for a second, and then I'm like clueless kind of thing. So yeah.
Yes.
I know. I went out.
Well, that I think that covers a lot of clarification that I felt like that could help others and myself. I learned also. Thank you, Donna, and maybe that that helped clarify for other people on the observer part and how to get there. Not realizing that there's steps that you just don't. Oh, okay, I'm going, out of my mind, and I'll just set it over here. No, it is truly a thing that you can learn to do. So if you have anything else, please feel free.
God, I hope not.
Free to finish, but I think we've covered about all of it today.
Okay. And then if anybody has a comment about it, or would like to have something that's even more, for us to dive into it a little bit deeper and expand on it, because we did cover a lot of topics and a lot of different ways that I mean to be an observer. And I will attach that little chart at the end so that you can begin to see how you can change your wording. It's little steps. So if you could do that, if you could, other things, if it just start somewhere, just begin to recognize where it is that you feel comfortable in shifting. Yeah. And sometimes just talking about it, because I know that does help me. If I talk about it, or if I have a friend that I can converse with and I talk to them about it, then it's a great conversation, and it expands you even more, because you have someone else's observations and perceptions coming in as well. And you begin to recognize, more and more and more, which expands you. So with that, I ask you to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out. Sounds good. All right, everyone, have a great day, keeping your head out of the sand and your eyes wide open. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Donna.
All right, take care.
Bye.